Hey guys, welcome back. Today I wanted to show you how I use this wonderful little powder, which is freeze-dried eggs. Although there's already plenty of videos of people making scrambled eggs with them, I want to show you a lot of the other ways that I use them. They are super versatile. I love to bake and make treats with them. So I already made a video about how I like to freeze dry eggs. So if you're curious about the process of freeze drying eggs that we get from our backyard chickens, I will link that video for you below. And I will also link for you the freeze dryer that we use to freeze dry all the extra eggs we get during the summer from our chickens. That'll be in the description box below too. But without further ado, let's get into some of my favorite ways to use freeze-dried eggs other than just simply scrambling them. They can actually make things so much more convenient, and this way I don't have to worry about using up a ton of eggs during the summer and then not having anything to use during the winter. So we store most of our freeze-dried eggs in mason jars like these, which are vacuum sealed. For longer term storage, we use Mylar bags, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to be using these mason jars. To make one scrambled egg, the ratio that I like to use is about 2 tablespoons of freeze-dried egg powder mixed with about 2 tablespoons of water. I usually like to mix it up, let it rehydrate, and that is about it. It actually is a super simple process. For this recipe, I just threw them in some scones, and it just sort of goes with any baking recipe. I can use them in cookies or scones or any sort of just mix and bake recipe. I like to use freeze-dried egg powder. I'm kind of an egg snob, and I do find that the texture of simple scrambled eggs, if they're freeze-dried, are a little bit different than if I just get farm fresh eggs outside. And again, that's because I'm a snob, because we get these farm fresh eggs all the time. So I actually don't prefer to scramble them. If I'm going to use them for breakfast, I prefer to use them in an egg bake or sort of like a bread pudding type casserole. So that's what I'm making here. I think the texture would have been totally fine because it was all mixed in with the bread, but just to be safe, I did mix in a few regular eggs as well to make sure that the texture didn't turn out funky, which it didn't. It turned out absolutely delicious. So here is after I poured the egg all over the bread and cream cheese and blueberry mixture and baked it in the oven. I did end up topping it with a raspberry kind of syrup with raspberries, frozen raspberries that we had picked from our garden earlier this year. So that turned out pretty delicious as well. Another thing I love to do with freeze-dried eggs is use it as an egg wash. So here I made a quiche, and instead of cracking an egg and brushing it, I just used the powder and a little bit of water. One of the nice things about using freeze-dried eggs is you don't have to use a whole egg. Usually if I'm doing an egg wash, I have leftover egg that I didn't use. So I only used 1 tablespoon of egg powder and 1 of water here, and it worked perfectly. As you can see, we ended up with a nice shiny quiche crust. I can't remember if I used it for the filling or not, but definitely works as an egg wash. Now, this is one that I am not well versed in. I very rarely fry chicken, so this definitely wasn't the standard operating procedure, but I've also heard that you can use the freeze-dried eggs, rehydrated freeze-dried eggs, to help with any of your frying and battering needs. Here I'm making pancakes, and to get a bunch of extra protein in the pancakes, we like to use Kodiak cakes, but it's super easy to just sprinkle in some freeze-dried egg powder instead of having to crack eggs. Obviously, I didn't even bother measuring here. I just mixed it in with the powder, mixed in some water, and we have super protein-packed pancakes, which we find are really good for breakfast and also just for kind of snacking on throughout the day too. Of course, I couldn't let a video go by without mentioning sourdough. So unfortunately, I can't give you a recipe because I don't measure my sourdough. I just kind of dump ingredients and go by how it feels. But sometimes I do like to add freeze-dried eggs to my sourdough. I find that adding eggs really helps make a nice soft bread. And I'm also adding some milk here, which also helps make it soft. Here I'm making sandwich bread, so I definitely wanted it to be super soft. Some other things, I know people will add honey sometimes to soften up bread, but here I was looking for kind of a higher protein, less sweet bread, and we did just get a really mild, super soft sandwich bread, which I really liked. I find that the egg and milk goes really far in helping create that soft sandwich-like texture. Obviously, use whatever works for you, but this is definitely helpful for us. Finally, to use up a whole bunch of freeze-dried eggs at once, here I'm making some breakfast sandwiches. So I just used freeze-dried eggs, and I did end up using a recipe for kind of those sous vide egg bites. And the reason I'm using the sous vide egg bites recipe instead of just regular scrambled egg bake is because I like the texture a little better once frozen and reheated. So here I'm mixing it up really well, and I'm going to add some cottage cheese and some shredded Gruyere and some pepper for flavor as well. This recipe didn't say to blend it up in the blender, which I actually do wish I had done, but I can do that next time. It still turned out totally fine. I didn't add any regular eggs to it. This is all freeze-dried eggs, just some breakfast sausage, and then I baked it in the oven, and it turned out pretty good. I do wish I had a little thicker of an egg patty, so as you can see, this is a little on the thin side. I had doubled the recipe. I think I would quadruple the recipe next time just to make a thicker egg patty. But what I like to do then is to use a donut cutter to cut out the eggs that fit within the English muffins. And don't worry, all those little bits that are left over kind of in between the cookie cutters, I use those in breakfast burritos. So nothing goes to waste. Once the breakfast sandwiches are assembled, I like to wrap them individually and then put them in a gallon freezer bag to prevent any freezer burn. I put them in the oven to melt the cheese a little bit so that it hugs the sandwich a little nicer, which makes wrapping a little bit easier too. So as you can see, this versatile little powder does not have to just sit on the shelf. It is really easy to keep around, use in baking, to use for adding more protein to various dishes like breads or pancakes, or just easy egg washes that don't leave part of the egg unused. One of the nice parts about having excess during the summer and having to put it in storage is that then I feel like I am a little more creative with my cooking when I am trying to make sure I use up the bounty, the blessings that we have been given. If you freeze dry eggs, I would love to hear how you use them in your favorite recipes. Please leave a comment below with your favorite ways to use freeze dried eggs, even if it's just using them to scramble for breakfast or even for omelets. I didn't include that one, but I bet that would work well too. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time.